There is a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when a woman begins to reveal her attraction. It rarely arrives as a declaration. Instead, it comes wrapped in curiosity, tucked inside the questions she asks when she wants to understand you beyond the surface. These questions are not random, they are emotional feelers, gentle invitations, subtle tests of compatibility, safety, and desire. They are her way of stepping toward you while still protecting the most vulnerable parts of herself. Women often express attraction in ways that are subtle, nuanced, and emotionally layered. Key point number 1 emphasizes that their interest is frequently communicated not through bold statements but through carefully chosen questions that carry a mixture of curiosity, vulnerability, and a desire to connect. These questions are rarely about gathering surface-level information. Instead, they are emotional signals designed to reveal who you are beneath your public persona. When a woman begins to feel drawn to someone, she instinctively seeks pathways into his inner world, and questions become her safest, most socially acceptable tool to do so. They allow her to explore without exposing too much, to show interest without risking rejection, and to open space for deeper intimacy without stepping beyond her comfort zone too quickly. These questions often revolve around your experiences, your values, your boundaries, and your emotional availability. She may ask about your childhood, not because she needs a biography, but because she wants to understand the origin of your emotional language. She may inquire about your goals, not out of idle curiosity, but because she wants to see whether your direction aligns with the kind of life she envisions for herself. She may ask about your relationships or how you see love, not to pry, but to sense whether you carry emotional clarity or lingering wounds. What seems casual is usually layered with meaning. Her hidden questions are a way of reading you, but also a way of revealing small parts of herself through the inquiries she chooses to make. Attraction, for many women, is intertwined with emotional safety and relational intelligence. These hidden questions offer her clues about whether you can meet her with honesty, empathy, and presence. She is not simply interested in the facts but in how you express them, in the tone you use, the openness you offer, and the consistency between your words and your energy. Every answer you give becomes part of a quiet internal map she builds to understand how close she can step toward you. Her questions may become increasingly personal as her comfort grows, or more frequent as her attraction deepens. And even when she tries to remain composed or reserved, her curiosity often betrays her. The more she asks, the more she cares. The more carefully she listens, the more she invests emotionally. Understanding this dynamic allows you to recognize attraction not as something loud and obvious but as something tender and intentional. It shifts the focus from what she says directly to what she hints at, from the literal content of her questions to the emotional intent behind them. Attraction is rarely expressed through dramatic gestures. Instead, it reveals itself in the quality and depth of attention a woman gives. Key point number 2 highlights that when a woman is genuinely drawn to someone, her way of listening transforms. She becomes more attuned, more observant, and more emotionally receptive to the subtleties of who you are. It is not just about hearing your words but about absorbing the layers beneath them, your intentions, your values, your emotional rhythm. She pays attention in a way that feels deliberate, as if each detail you share becomes a thread she holds onto because it brings her closer to understanding you. This kind of attention is not casual, it reflects an inner pull, a curiosity that she cannot quite hide, and an instinctive desire to connect more deeply than the situation may strictly require. The questions she asks stem from this heightened awareness. She wants to know how you think, not only what you think. She notices small shifts in your expressions, your tone, your pauses, and she uses them to guide further questions because she is trying to reach the place where your authentic self lives. When a woman is uninterested, her listening is functional. When she is drawn to you, her listening becomes an exploration. She lingers on conversations rather than rushing through them. She remembers things you mentioned offhand, referencing them later in ways that reveal just how closely she was paying attention. This is a form of emotional investment, one she may not consciously articulate but one that becomes clear through her patterns. Her depth of attention also appears in the way she shapes the conversation. She may steer discussions toward topics that matter to her emotionally, not to dominate the dialogue but to see whether you can meet her there. She notices how you describe your past, how you treat people, how you speak about your ambitions and disappointments. Every detail she gathers becomes part of a growing portrait in her mind. She is assessing compatibility without announcing it, sensing whether your emotional landscape matches the kind she feels drawn to. It is a subtle dance of vulnerability and curiosity, and although she may keep her feelings guarded, her attention often reveals the truth long before her words do. Through this deep listening, she begins to build a connection that feels meaningful to her. The more engaged she becomes, the more she signals, sometimes without realizing it, that she cares about who you are beneath the surface. Her attention becomes a mirror, reflecting both her interest and her hope that the conversation is not just an exchange of information but the beginning of something that could grow into a deeper bond. Hidden questions often reveal a woman's search for emotional safety, and this is where key point number 3 takes on its full meaning. When a woman is attracted to someone, she does not simply want to know the facts of his life, she wants to understand the emotional architecture behind those facts. Her questions become a way of sensing whether she can trust him, whether he is grounded, whether he holds space for honesty, and whether he can meet her at the intersection of vulnerability and desire. She is not looking for perfection, she is looking for emotional security, for signs that he is someone with whom she can reveal parts of herself without fear of judgment or dismissal. Every question she asks is a small step forward, a way of balancing her interest with her need to protect her heart. These hidden questions often sound casual, but beneath them lies an emotional intention. When she asks how you deal with stress, she is not just being conversational, she wants to know whether your emotional stability can support connection. When she asks about your past relationships, she is trying to understand how you treat intimacy, what you have learned, and whether you carry unresolved wounds that might impact future closeness. When she asks about your childhood or your mentors, she is looking for clues about your emotional foundation. And when she asks what you want for your life, she is seeking alignment, trying to see whether your vision of the future leaves room for someone like her. She asks gently, indirectly, because direct exposure risks too much. But the meaning behind every question is deliberate. This search for emotional safety is often instinctive. She wants to feel that her interest is reciprocated but also that her openness will not be exploited. Women frequently measure attraction through the lens of emotional risk, how much they can reveal, how much they should hold back, how far they can lean in without losing themselves. These questions help her navigate those boundaries. She watches how you respond, not just the content of your answer but the presence behind it. Are you attentive? Are you truthful? Are you avoidant? Are you emotionally aware? Your responses give her more insight than you might realize, because what she truly wants to understand is whether your inner world can coexist safely with hers. As her attraction deepens, her questions may grow more personal, more thoughtful, and more revealing. They become less about the surface and more about the spaces where emotional intimacy lives. She is hoping to find someone who can meet her curiosity with sincerity, someone who offers clarity rather than confusion, someone who creates a sense of emotional grounding simply through the way he engages. In these quiet explorations, she is deciding not just whether she is attracted to you, but whether she can trust the connection she feels forming. Small inquiries about your past, your dreams, your relationships, and your inner world often serve as the most telling indicators of a woman's attraction, and this forms the essence of key point number 4. These are not random questions, they are pathways she uses to access a deeper understanding of who you are. When a woman is drawn to someone, she becomes curious about the elements that shaped him, the desires that propel him, and the emotional experiences that influence how he connects. Each question she asks is a gentle invitation, a subtle opening that allows her to step a little closer while giving you the chance to meet her in a space of sincerity. In asking these questions, she is doing more than seeking information, she is exploring the possibility of intimacy, the potential for shared meaning, and the emotional resonance that may exist between you. When she asks about your past, she is trying to understand the story that made you. She wants to know the lessons you've learned, the challenges you've overcome, and the emotional patterns you carry. Her interest in your history is never just curiosity, it's a way of sensing your emotional maturity and the depth of your self-awareness. She hopes to find someone who has reflected on his experiences, someone who understands himself well enough to build something meaningful with another person. And often, while she listens to your answers, she quietly reveals small parts of her own past too, creating an unspoken exchange of vulnerability. When she asks about your dreams, She is looking toward the future. She wants to understand what motivates you, what you value, what you hope for, and whether your vision aligns with hers in ways that make connection feel possible. Attraction grows stronger when she sees that your aspirations are driven not only by ambition but by purpose. She is drawn to the emotional substance of your dreams, why they matter to you, who you hope to become, and how you imagine your life unfolding. Your dreams tell her as much about your heart as they do about your plans. When she asks about relationships, she is exploring how you love, how you communicate, and what intimacy means to you. These questions are often the most revealing because they show her whether you carry openness or defensiveness, whether you hold empathy or avoidance, and whether you understand the emotional complexity that closeness requires. She is not judging, she is discerning. She wants to know if you can meet her with the kind of emotional clarity she seeks. All these inquiries become invitations for connection. They signal her willingness to open up if you can show reciprocity and emotional presence. Through them, she is slowly building a bridge, one that allows attraction to grow into something more meaningful if you choose to step onto it with her. The real sign of attraction often lives not in the words a woman chooses but in the energy behind them, and this is the heart of key point number 5. What she asks may seem simple, but why she asks carries emotional weight. Attraction has a way of revealing itself through the tone she uses, the softness in her voice when she is curious, the attentive silence she holds while waiting for your answer. Her questions become a quiet bridge between interest and vulnerability. She is not merely gathering information, she is reaching for connection, testing whether the space between you is safe enough for her to step into more openly. The emotional intention behind her curiosity is often far more revealing than the question itself. When a woman is attracted, her curiosity is infused with feeling. She leans forward slightly, not always physically but emotionally. Her questions linger on topics that matter to her heart, not just her mind. She may ask about your day, but what she is truly noticing is how you felt about it. She may ask about your plans, but what she is really sensing is whether she fits anywhere within your world. You can hear attraction in the rhythm of her questions, how they build from light and playful to more thoughtful, more intimate, more emotionally textured. Each one is a subtle attempt to peel back another layer of who you are, and each one quietly exposes a layer of her own longing. The energy behind her questions often shows itself in the way she responds to your answers. If she is only being polite, her reactions will stay neutral. But if she is drawn to you, her responses carry warmth, engagement, and emotional investment. She follows up with deeper questions, responds with thoughtful reflections, or smiles in ways that reveal genuine interest. Even her pauses hold meaning. She is not searching for the next question but absorbing your presence. The emotional charge in the conversation becomes palpable, even if neither of you speaks of attraction outright. This energy also appears in how she remembers what you say. She stores your words not as data but as emotional impressions, your fears, your hopes, your preferences, your stories. She brings them up later, weaving them back into conversation because they matter to her. The more she remembers, the more she reveals her growing emotional attachment. Her curiosity becomes a map of where her feelings are headed, and each question becomes a signpost pointing toward closeness. Ultimately, it is not the content of her questions that signals attraction but the emotional intention wrapped around them. You feel it in the warmth of her curiosity, the depth of her attention, and the subtle vulnerability she allows each time she asks something that brings her closer to knowing you.